Welcome to day 5 of our school year. Go ahead and fill in that 5th box there. And actually, before we get started, we want to look at the other side. Now, in our lesson yesterday, we did the prime number sieve. So we identified all the prime numbers between 1 and 180. So we want to go through and circle those on this page because that's going to help us in future daily fractions. Okay, so let's go ahead and go through and circle all our prime numbers. Our first prime number is 2. It's the only even one. Then we circle 3, 5, 7, 11, 13, 17, 19, 23, 29, 31, 37, 41, 43, 47, 53, 59, 61, 67, 71, 73, 79, 83, 89, 97, 101, 103, 107, 109, 113, 127, 131, 137, 139, 149, 151, 157, 163, 167, 173, and 179. So now that we've identified all the prime numbers between 1 and 180, we can go ahead and put it back in the sleeve and work on our daily fraction for today. All right. So we're going to start with our beginning fraction. And our beginning fraction is, our denominator is 180. And it's that because that's how many school days we have. And we are currently on day 5. Okay, and now we're going to look at our factors for our numerator. Our numerator is 5. 2 factors we always know are 1 and the number itself. Okay, and then the commutative property of multiplication. I can also write it as 5 times 1. So we just need to check the numbers in between. So following our divisibility rules, after 1 we try 2. The rule for 2 is that it ends in an even number. 5 is odd, so 2 is not a factor. Then we look at 3. 3, 6, no, 5 is not a multiple of 3 because it's not in the list of multiples. We try 4. Well, if 2 is not a factor, that means no even number will be, so we don't even need to try 4. And then we get to 5. So we're done. We list our factors from least to greatest. We get 1 and 5. That is exactly 2 factors, so it is prime. And it's one that we just circled over here. So now we want to try to find our greatest common factor. So we're going to start with 5. If that doesn't work, then we'll go to 1. So let's put everything into groups of 5. Remember, it doesn't matter what your group looks like, but we need all the shaded in their own groups. I shouldn't see any groups that have part shaded and part unshaded. There shouldn't be anything like this. There shouldn't be any left unshaded or just 1 or 2 shaded. So here's my group in the shaded, okay, and then I put the rest in groups of 5. Now the nice thing about 5 is that each of these rows have 10 squares. So if I cut 10 in half, I have 5 on each side. So that can speed up making groups. You do not have to do your groups the way I do it. Just make sure there's 5 in each group. You may find a faster way, and that's fine. Okay, now that I have my total groups of 5, and I have no remainder, so 5 is definitely a factor. 5 is my greatest common factor. Now I need to find what my new denominator is. How many total groups of 5 do I have? Well, each row has 2, so I can count by 2's. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30, 32, 34, 36. There's a total of 36 groups. And I have 1 group of 5 shaded in. Okay, so I used my model to do my division and find my equivalent fraction in lowest terms or simplest form. Now I'm going to use my algorithm. When you can do things in more than one way, when you can solve a problem in more than one way and get the same answer, you can be pretty sure that answer is accurate. Okay, so now I'm going to use this long division. So I have 180 divided by 5. Well, let's see. I can do, let's try 20 times 5. Because I'm pretty good at multiplying by 10, and I'm pretty good at multiplying by 2. So I'm going to try 20. The 10, that placeholder, just moves everything over a place. And then 2 times 5 is 10. Numbers the same, zeros a game. More on top, no need to stop. Numbers the same, zeros a game. Now I'm going to do 10 times 5 is 50. Numbers the same, zeros a game. More on top, no need to stop. And then that is 6 times 5 is 30. So if you're trying this on your own, I don't want you using what we have up here to solve your problem, because we could have made a mistake here and you're assuming that the math we did was correct. The point is to do it a different way with numbers you know. So you need to be using numbers that you are really good with multiplying. And most of you probably don't know your 36s, so make sure you're using numbers that you know mentally. Okay, so numbers the same, zero's a game. We have our remainder of 0. We're going to add up our partial quotients. 0 plus 0 plus 6. 20 plus 10. I get 36. Okay, And then we do our numerator. 5 divided by 5. Well, 5 times 1 is 5. Number's the same. 0's the game. And we get 1. We still need to check our answer. We do that with our inverse operation. So that's your divisor of 5 times your quotient of 36 plus your remainder of 0. Now we don't actually need to add 0 because the identity property of addition says when you add 0 it stays the same. So we just have to do the multiplying, and it should equal our dividend. If it does, it checks. So here's our quotient times that divisor. 5 times 6 is 30. 5 times 3 is 15, plus 3 is 18. Get 180, that checks. We're going to do the same thing here. Divisor times quotient plus remainder. Again, we don't need to add that remainder. 1 times 5, well, this is actually the identity property of multiplication. That says if you multiply by 1, it stays the same. That matches my dividend, so that checks. So my numerator is definitely 1, and my denominator is definitely 36. Now let's go ahead and fill in our data collection page. Still in trimester 1, week 2. Today's date is 8/14/19, and our fraction is 1/36. Okay, let's go ahead and get out your number line. We did groups of 5. So let's look where it says 5. Let's go over to that first line, and it's 1/36 because that represents that first piece, that one piece. And if we look, that lines up perfectly with 5 180ths. So those are equivalent fraction because they show the same total amount. Okay, let's go ahead and put your number line away, erase your worksheet, and thank you for joining me.